We had a major update today because before President Trump's just very recent post, everybody was trying to figure out, are we going to have a second rounds of negotiations between United States and the Islamic Republic and Pakistan? Are they meeting in Islamabad, not meeting in Islamabad? Yesterday we talked about how it seemed like Ghalibaf was removed from the negotiating team. It seemed like the higher ups, including the people around the Mushtaba Khamenei circle, were not happy with Ghalibaf. They made it public. That they think that bringing the nuclear stuff to the negotiating table was a mistake that shouldn't have even been discussed with the Americans. That is not even up for discussion, which is basically whoever is in charge is retarded, basically, because that means that there's nothing to negotiate because the Americans, that is the main thing that the Americans care about. If you're not going to talk about the enriched uranium, then what is even the point of meeting? Apparently, Araghchi's understanding also was that if we're not talking that, then there's not even point talking. But Araghchi is not in control, and the reports suggest that Ghalibaf is now being criticized and pushed aside, maybe somewhat, in favor of people that either don't want a negotiation at all, or at least they want the negotiations to not include the enriched uranium. So Araghchi went to Islamabad in Pakistan, and we were wondering, so Ghalibaf didn't, and the understanding was that Araghchi was saying, I'm not even there to meet with the Americans. I'm just going to talk. I'm just there to talk with Pakistanis. I don't like Americans are not even important. Like, yeah, acting like the Americans are not even important to talk to. We're too cool to talk to Americans, apparently. And then apparently we were seeing if Witkoff is going to go to Pakistan or not. And then President Trump posted this. So let me actually show it on screen. Truth. Yeah. President Trump just posted this a few hours ago saying, just canceled the trip of my representatives going to Islamabad, Pakistan to meet with the Iranians. Too much time wasted on traveling, too much work. Besides which, there is tremendous infighting and confusion within their quote unquote leadership. Nobody knows who's in charge, including them. Guys, remember so many days ago, before other people mentioned it, we were telling, like, when people came to this discussion group and asked me, Armin, who's in charge in the Islamic Republic? I told you guys, nobody knows. And I don't think the Islamic Republic knows either. And now President Trump is saying the same thing. Are you guys not impressed? Are you guys not impressed with the discussions here? Okay, so nobody knows who's in charge, including them. Also, we have all the cards. They have none. If they want to talk, all they have to do is call. Look at this. Okay, President Donald J. Trump. Look at this. Just call if you want to. We don't have to go there. I think it's President Trump is done with the negotiations, and we're not going to mess around with you guys unless you guys have something serious to offer. So this suggests that maybe escalation is on the way. It shows that Mushtaba has made everything with Mushtaba. If he's talking, I don't know if he's talking or somebody else is talking on his behalf, but he just made everything a lot less flexible, and it's really hard to undo that. So whoever was in charge of saying that Mushtaba said we're not talking nuclear, that it's difficult to come up with excuses if the Islamic Republic realizes that's a mistake, that we have to talk nuclear. Coming up with a justification for why we're now talking nuclear is very difficult, and nobody wants to be that guy anymore. So this is a classical prisoner's dilemma situation going on right now within the Islamic Republic. If everybody from the Islamic Republic came out and said, "Okay, we need to negotiate with President Trump or else we're fucked," then they might be able to do something. But from an individual, from everybody's best interest perspective, on an individual level, it makes sense for you to just want other people to go and try to be flexible, but not you, given how easy it is to just now label everybody as a traitor or a spy, or doing treason or something like that. This whole narrative that they created, that if you talk to the Americans, you're pissing in the blood of Ali Khamenei, is now backfiring, and nobody wants to be that guy. Nobody wants to be that guy. So that's why everybody looking at what works best for them is, yeah, no, we shouldn't talk to the Americans. Fuck the Americans. They killed their supreme leader, and but they're, I think, they do want other people to go negotiate, doing the negotiations, but not me, not me, because I don't want to be the spot. I don't want to be the traitor. So a lot of people I saw on like many Western media, people were analyzing this is the reason why the Islamic Republic is not giving its enriched uranium, and many people still don't get it. This is like many people think like right now the issue, the reason why the Islamic Republic wants to hold on to its enriched uranium is because that gives them leverage. But that's not the main reason. The main reason is because they can't give it up. They cannot give it up because they created this idea that they created this delusion internally. They created this narrative that if whoever suggests that we should give it up, they're traitors, right? We're winning this, so why should we even give anything up? So the narrative that they created to try to demonstrate strength to their followers as a way to continue gaining them support, is now tying their hand, because they now have to abide by the story, the delusional story that they created, or else they would be betraying the ideals that they have been advocating for all of this time to their followers. And the only way they could get away from this is to bring in proxies from outside. Again, as we mentioned before, Cash the Shabi, Zainabiyun, and Fatimiyun from outside, this terrorist Shia proxy groups. And if I was IRGC, I would be like, hey, yeah, fuck the Americans. Let's bring on these militia groups from outside. When so many of them are in, then maybe at some point I will make a deal with the Americans. They're like, here, you can have everything, and I have just let me make enough oil revenue so I could pay these militias to shoot to suppress everybody who goes against me. And at that point, I don't even care if I'm betraying the ideals of the Islamic Revolution, because I have too many people who are willing to kill anybody who wants to challenge my authority, including the pro regime people. That would be the card I would play. But right now, playing that card is even difficult because of the blockade is not letting the Islamic Republic make enough money to maybe pay for proxies. And I saw that they even managed to get some of their cryptocurrency wallets. I don't know how much they got, but it was a big sum. So any money, like I'm assuming that any money they managed to make from collecting tolls from the Hormuz Strait is gone, because there was a report that showed that a lot of cryptocurrency by the Islamic Republic was now taken by the Americans. So what the reason why I think what President Trump is doing is very effective is because either you have to go with the ideology and keep everybody loyal so that they fight for you, or you have to have enough US dollars from the oil sale to be able to keep paying mercenaries. And President Trump is basically taking away both of those from the Islamic Republic. The blockade and Operation Economic Fury is freezing a lot of the assets of the Islamic Republic and reducing their revenue to close to reducing it to a minimum. But at the same time, this whole negotiation going back and forth is making many people within the regime lose faith to the regime. So that's where we are at right now. Anyways, that went on longer than I thought. Sorry, let's go to you guys. I know anybody. Yep. Okay.
Okay, so Daniel is first on the list.
Okay, Daniel.
It's interesting because I don't think cryptocurrency can really help the Islamic regime. And the reason is that, on the one hand, if you're storing cryptocurrency yourself, it's a for an organization, it's a huge security risk because only certain individuals are holding the private keys. If you're not storing it yourself, if you're using an exchange, then you're subject to sanctions. The exchange is going to be subject to sanctions. So I don't know if cryptocurrency is really a solution for this regime because the logistics of actually storing it themselves is actually quite complicated.
It depends on the cryptocurrency, right?
But
I-
the issue is that if you store the key, let's say I hold the key privately for some cryptocurrency that's held by the American government or something like that. If I'm the only person that has access to that key, I can steal the money. In order for an organization to store it themselves, they have to spread out the keys in multiple places. It's a little technical what I'm saying,
Mm.
but cryptocurrency is really good for individuals to store value themselves, but
Right.
it's really hard for organizations, particularly in organizations with infighting, to store the value
Oh,
themselves. So if they can't do that, then they have to go to a third party. I'm sure they're not using Coinbase, but there's a bunch of these companies that do it. And
right.
that third party
But
is going to be in China or somewhere else.
can't
They're
you
going
just say that? Can't you just know who's collecting it? And if it's lost, then you just punish the person who stole it. Like you have the people, you know who's
to,
responsible for it. You
yeah,
could just execute. You could just execute the person collecting it. If he steals it, you could be like, "I'm just gonna execute you."
I agree it's complicated. I just think that the notion that I would challenge the notion that they can magically use cryptocurrency to like solve some of their money laundering problems. But
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah. So here's the news regarding that. The okay. So there was a $344 million crypto freeze. The U.S. Treasury Department officially froze $344 million in cryptocurrency assets that were tied to the Islamic Republic. It was Tether, yes, Limited, the company behind the stablecoin. I don't have a USDT. Yes, so this is a stablecoin. So this is not Bitcoin or anything. So it's just tied to the US dollar. Assisted. Oh, so that company, which I have a hard time pronouncing for some reason, that basically is tied to USDT, assisted the U.S. government in freezing the $344 million across the two specific digital addresses. You were right. You were right, because they had to rely on certain places that are connected to the United States to be able to move these cryptocurrencies, and they helped the American government to get them to basically freeze them. So
Yeah,
it's not a very efficient way.
Tether would be even worse than say if they were trying to use Bitcoin or something like that, because Tether, you really do need it's a fast way for people to move money between exchanges and stuff and have it denominated in USD, but it's not something that's like a permissionless or however you want to describe it. If you're so they're not really, I would challenge the media saying they're using cryptocurrency, but they aren't really. And
But that's Scott
that's
Besson said that. This is confirmed by Scott Besson that they froze this.
But I'm just saying that it doesn't work as a solution. If it doesn't work as a solution for them, and that's why the U.S. was able to
Yeah,
seize
okay.
it so easily.
But that's a lot of money for the Islamic Republic. That's $344 million crypto, like in just one freeze, losing. That's significant. It might not sound significant from an American perspective when it comes to the budgets that America has, but from the Islamic Republic perspective, that's big money. Anyways, but yeah, it's gone. It's gone. And but by the way, as good as this sounds, it's nothing compared to the amount of money they're losing from the blockade. So this is $344 million in total loss from the blockade. They're losing 500 million a day. So that is, yeah. Okay. Jeffrey wanted to respond to this.
Yeah, you touched on a couple of key points. Parts of Operation Epic Fury that are targeting the cryptocurrency strategy that the regime remnants are trying to use to circumvent traditional sanctions. You mentioned some of them. They're also doing broader wallet and network sanctions. They're integrating other targets. Like you said, we're also hitting the shadow fleet. We're actually grabbing, now the goal is to grab them everywhere around the world. So those 250 plus oil tankers that are based, doesn't matter where they're based. They're off the coast of Malaysia. Yeah, we're still going to take them. There's nothing Malaysia can do about it. Nor can China, by the way. Fuck them. How do they do that? So they do blockchain forensics first. They, like the Office of Foreign Asset Control, give me a little rope here, actually designates the wallets. They tether the USD issuer, like you were talking about, on command. They freeze them on command. That's how they got the 344 million via Tron blockchain. some of the choke points. They're choke pointing the USD on Tron, the wallet cluster themselves, and here's the more like important part: the on and off ramps, the exchanges and OTC desks in the United Kingdom, UAE, China, Hong Kong, etc. So if you touch the money, then you're hammered next. Put it another way, the Treasury Department under this administration is not fucking around, right? They take all your money, period. Anybody who does the exchange is going to be obliterated economically as soon as they catch them. So Armin's right. It's like the Operation Economic Fury is very much the economic version of the air campaign that we carried out against the Mullah regime. It is a maximum pressure economic campaign, a maximum economic pressure campaign. Additionally, we're getting ready to fucking hammer the living shit out of the Mullah regime. We just moved all of our heavy bombers, or a vast, significant portion of them, getting ready to hammer IRGC, Mullah remnant targets all over Iran, particularly with regards to the islands and or the targets along the coast, the Hormuz coast of Iran. I'll say this, and I'll finish with this. There's a very good reason that President Trump canceled that fucking trip, because everybody knows that even if they're, first off, the Mullah regime or the regime remnants, this is the Mullah regime that exists is dead, cannot be trusted. And even if you had elements that could be trusted, there's no way they have positive control over anything that goes on in Iran because their command and control is fragmented. One of the things I've pushed up the chain, and this is important for all of you guys, particularly with regards to supporting His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi and the transitionary government, is to reiterate these are the lines of action that need to occur. They need to recognize the United States, this administration should recognize the transitionary government led by His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi as the official government in exile. Then when they liberate those oil tankers, provide those oil tankers to him so they can be sold in the open market. That provides about $15 to $20 billion worth of revenue to support a comprehensive Track 2 material support network that will ultimately conclude with easily 20,000 lawful unconventional fighters that are drawn within the American and or Canadian citizens of Iranian descent between the ages of 18 and 35, broken down to 156 companies of 128 men that are further dispersed amongst 8-man hunter-killer teams to flesh out and kill all the besieged remnants that are killing Iranians right now. Most of the, I'm not going to go into all the specifics of it because it would be too long and it would belabor things that people should talk. Hold on. If that is done, each trained fighter at the low end will kill at least 20 besieged remnants very quickly. You're talking about low end 400,000 besieged remnants eliminated, and that's 400,000 of the 460,000 of the besieged remnants. That is the enforcing arm of the Mullah regime, and then the Mullah regime's steel fist around Iranian people collapses overnight. Fuck those mullahs.
Yep, I agree with that.